I believe that Ferox actually has the speed advantage in this matchup as well.
It'll come down to how we get to see this as we enter the match. Again, we're gonna get to see a whole lot of Tetris being first to 7 as we kick off with both players going nearly identical, but Tizago with a flat eye that I'm guessing was a misdraw means that Ferox is the first to send attack with his 6-3.
Yeah, Tizago did have to do a bit of a skim there due to their misdrop, and Ferox also fixing their misdrop. They're actually going to fix that pretty quickly while I was even finishing that sentence. And both players have immediate access to their wells. It's just going to be a matter of who's going to have the more efficient zone. Tizago's going to fire first, but those misdrops are not looking good versus Ferox with that insane well that they have right now. It's going to be bad news if you're Tizago and you can't find this line clears to match.
Yeah, Ferox keeping up the efficient plays there with 57 attack and 18, and Tizago only getting 45 in the same 18, and so it'll be a little bit of a challenge as she's up at the top of the board now for a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get to see some magic happening.
Yeah, she's doing a nice job at cycling, but that is still going to force the zone. She's going to actually take the very smart play of ending the zone before they use their material, so they can use their material to build more zone charge and not be too far behind in the pacing. And Ferox is trying to deal with some self-cheese and make it down to their well of clean.
Yeah, but both of the players now having clean boards overall and pretty nice garbage wells to work with, but also max zoning means that whoever zones first might end up taking an advantage, but if they can't get the zone to cooperate, then it could just as easily go the other way.
We're actually going to see the zoneless transition from Ferox, which means that Tizago is not going to get all the time she needs, but she's playing this really fast. She is going to make it to the top, but we know how she likes to use her time to find these higher solves, and she's not even going to get the 19th line in time, so that zoneless transition is definitely proving effective for Ferox right now, who still has a fully man-made stack and is going to go into that 6-3. But Tizago isn't too far behind in terms of pacing, also making it all the way to the bottom of their stack and keeping efficiency as well. Also going to go ahead and set up that side ties immediately, or at least look for it.
Yeah, some incredible plays here to keep up whatever pressure may exist, but a little bit of cheese on both of these boards means it'll be a hard down stack to work through, but much more can be said about the players than just being good at downstacking through cheese. And we're seeing as Tizago is playing pretty quick here to get through that, but Ferox has not let up on pressure, and now with a full zone has a lot of runway to send attack.
Yeah, Ferox keeping that pressure, looking for that kill shot, because Tizago is definitely going to be forced to zone here no matter what. Trying to play this as fast as possible, leveraging whatever speed that they can muster right now, but Ferox's pressure is just too great, and Ferox is going to be the first one on the board. Pretty similar speeds, but Ferox was simply the more efficient player in this round.
And that attack, those attack metrics can really tell a story on how these players are using their pieces during the match, that Ferox could take full advantage of that, as Tizago now having a few misdrops in her 6-3 that causes her to zone a little bit early here, but shouldn't be the end of the world given that we're still in early phase 1 and anything can change.
Yeah, with phase 1, you're not really able to press your advantage as much because you just give your opponent that much time if you want to go for an insanely quick zone. And even if you want to go for a slower zone, you're still going to have to worry about giving your opponent the leeway that they need, even if they're receiving that much.
Yeah, as the zone gets longer, that just means your opponent also has more time to work through it, though. But as you get into the later phases, the zones also do end up getting shorter, and so seeing the efficient plays can really help you in the late game, as zones cannot be as powerful if you don't have the time to work through it.
Definitely well said, but Ferox has very unfortunate garbage RNG right now. The majority of their overstack is covering their well, but they're able to get some damage buffers there with the T-spins, and Tizago trying to find that kill shot, gonna force Ferox to zone at an unopportune time. They're gonna find the TSS, and they're gonna have a little bit of a down stack, but Tizago is not gonna transition with this zone. Her score is simply too low, which might give Ferox an opportunity to escape.
And with all of the attacks that Tizago had, Ferox now has about a full board of garbage that has to be dealt with in some way or other, and apparently Ferox's method is with a zone, which can be a very great way of doing it. But Tizago, with that full 4-wide setup there on the side and entering zone with it to keep up the efficiency, but with a misdrop will slow it down a little.
Tizago was in such a nice spot there. They had the side ties, they had most of their damage canceled, they had the half zone, but unfortunately that misdrop is going to cut the combo and give Ferox time that they need to go ahead and find a kill shot if Tizago is not able to find the skims they need. But of course, with that combo that they had set up prior, of course they're going to find that quarter, and they're not even going to need to use it yet because Ferox is also dealing with a few misdrops of their own.
Yeah, now Tizago keeping up the combo with a bit of a 3-wide there, but Ferox has not let that get to him, and he's been stacking wonderfully and hasn't really seen a lick of garbage in a while.
No, they haven't. They're doing a very nice job at getting through here. They're gonna send a TST, so whatever Ferox have, they're gonna have to go ahead and accept some bleed through. But at the same time, that efficiency is just looking a little too strong. Tizago's going to be forced to use this max zone at an unopportune time. Once again, Ferox is doing a very nice job of timing these spikes.
Yeah, when playing at high levels of zone battle, it becomes a challenge to figure out when to properly use your zone. Because if you end up just a little bit too late, you could end up in a situation where it's just too much. Like, Tizago could not quite get through what the garbage that was sent, and that gave Ferox that round.
We do see Tizago with very amazing P-spawn knowledge. They've been able to weasel out of insane situations due to it, but that unfortunately was not one of them. The damage was just too great. But I would not be surprised if we see that skill come in later in a time where it actually does end up mattering.
Yeah, being two players who really excel at curb trisses, having that knowledge at the top of the board on how to use IRS and what benefits that IHS can offer can really shift the tides if you're stuck up high. And now, as Tizago is working to look for some kind of good zone, couldn't get 20th line there, but that just means that now Ferox has the time to get an ulti, sending 61 in one massive chunk at the end here that Tizago now has to work through with not too much to spare.
Yeah, it was initially untankable, but she decides that she's gonna try and do it anyway, gonna go ahead and limit their total zone damage in order for them to take a majority of it and not lose the pacing, and she is gonna go ahead and win that gamble. She doesn't die, the garbage appears at a pretty good spot, and we're looking to get pretty close to transition. Just gonna be a matter of whose zone is better.
And with that being a phase 2 garbage being tethered to the amount of lines that that singular attack gave, that meant that that was a very clean well that gave Tizago a full zone very fast, and now she's taking full advantage of it yet again and getting a nice S-solve for the Perfectress there, as Ferox now has a little bit of a messier state and gets 15 in his zone.
The delayed burns that Tizago is able to find really just showing that top of the board knowledge that's so important, and tried to set up that 3-wide in order to stall just in case Ferox sent them a few too many lines, but looks like they're pretty much in the clear. They have a zone advantage, but they're not going to be able to find the spikes that they need. They can't even finish the setup. They do get the skim. Once again, another delayed burn at the top. Not able to finish the T-spin setup though, just because they're not going to let their next piece spawn if they do that, and Ferox is going to take a 3rd point.
Yeah, impressive stuff. That knowledge that you have to know that that piece will just cause you to top out at that moment is impressive stuff, but as a result, Tizago could not quite get anything out of that, and so we are into game number 4 with Ferox up, but both players starting with 6-3.
Yeah, you could be like the best player in the world, but once you make it to the top of the board, you will be forced into uncomfortable situations. You will have to make choices where there is no real correct option. There is no winning option. You just have to do some damage mitigation. That's what Tizago is faced with. She's going to have to do that again, but luckily for her, this time it is in a phase 1 situation, so she can deal with some more lax pressure. Ferox has a full zone, gonna keep efficiency, gonna try and not break back-to-back for as long as possible. Looking for that overstack even. Gonna be pretty scary if you're Tizago right now. Ferox is gonna find that 20. And that's gonna be 68 damage being sent over to Tizago, but she's able to take just about all of it. Once again, knowing exactly how much she's allowed to take at any given moment is gonna give her some nice gambles that other players aren't able to save for themselves.
Oof, but that IA misdrop, which was next to the well, kinda hurt the efficiency plays there. That I saw she was going for some great T-spin and Tetris action there that just couldn't quite get there, but can just dig through this and hope to get something good and keep it up against Ferox's never-ending pressure here.
Yeah, Tizago's gonna end up doing some well coverage because of these misdrops, and Ferox is fully in control of transition, and depending on how fast this zone is, it could spell bad news for Tizago once again on the transition. Ferox looking for the 20 solve, and unfortunately that eyepiece would not spawn in the column they were looking for there, so they're just gonna have to settle. Tizago looking for the 20 solve as well. Unfortunately, once again, the eyepiece is a little bit too far, so both players losing their zones at the same moment, and Tizago tries to build a trinity there, but unfortunately the stack just didn't allow it for it to happen.
It was a great solve though to use that L to at least get the second T-spin double out of it, but Ferox's pressure just did not let up despite all that, and Tizago got a little too high up there at the end, and that gave Ferox another win.
Does make sense, but Ferox is on sweep pace right now, so Tizago's going to be looking for any kind of opportunity in order to break this momentum, and we are actually going to see her attempt something new. We see her try a C-spin. Unfortunately, she ends up misdropping the C-spin, so she's not going to be able to send the big damage, but she is going to be able to receive a lot of clean because this is in fact phase 1, and Ferox's efficiency might backfire here.
Yeah, with the phase 1 garbage being so incredibly clean, it is very easy to get caught off guard by your opponent having a very nice garbage well to work with. As Tizago now using an STSD on top of just a regular T-spin there, and with a few more donations that don't quite work out, that gives Ferox a little bit of a zone advantage here with 19 against 17, and that gives Ferox the attack as well, but Tizago could not get that zone charge to defend against the large spikes that were at the end of the zone.
And the efficiency that a Ferox played there, 115 and 111, well over 95% there. Absolutely impressive stuff, but Tizago, once again, just going to return to 6-3 once they realize that the C-spin didn't work, and they're going to try and adapt this way still.
Yeah, and with that one single line of garbage being in the different column means that Tizago has to do a little bit more of a freestyling approach here, but gets through it wonderfully and has a max zone now, whereas Ferox had just, for a moment, a little bit of a messy stack, but easily keeping everything clean, and now Ferox being the first to zone with a max zone and now has a lot of attack possible, but Tizago is right behind him.
Yeah, Ferox had a nice pacing advantage because they started with column 7 garbage, but they weren't able to maintain it, so their zone is going to take a hit in their efficiency, only sending 39, so this is definitely a good time for Tizago to take that momentum that she's been looking for. Sadly, that S-piece isn't going to spawn, she's going to send 49, but Ferox's post pressure is just not going to let Tizago get any kind of room.
Yeah, impressive stuff by Ferox to keep up all of the pressure, despite a little bit of a less efficient zone there, but keeping everything going, and now with a few T-spins and a couple more burns, that gives Ferox a max zone against Tizago's, and it might just come down to who can get this next zone efficiently, as we are approaching the position where the next zone might just end up in phase 3.
Yeah, Tizago did end up waiting on that to make sure they didn't make the same mistake that they've made prior. This zone is going to transition if she manages to use all her material, going all the way up to 18. She's going to look for that higher clear. And unfortunately, those pieces aren't going to spawn where she wants to, and going for that is going to compromise the 20 opportunity. Ferox in a very similar situation, trying to take some spins to compromise, but they're going to be forced to take a Deca Hexatris and only send 45 over, but both players having to deal with a lot of misdrops, so we're going to see who manages to deal with them better.
Yeah, the misdrops can be a little bit of a sticky situation at times, but Ferox had some great solves there and gets down with a couple T-spins, just extra attack to add on top, but Tizago having all of this time means that she's able to send a whole lot of attack, and Ferox is now on the back foot for a little bit.
Yeah, they're gonna go ahead and switch their gears into down stack mode, maybe find at least one more T-spin because they need this damage buffer while Tizago is keeping that efficiency. But wait, Tizago's gonna go into zone, which is gonna give some time to Ferox, but Tizago's gonna make it all the way through their stack, so the resulting board state is going to allow her to compound more and more post pressure, so it's a pretty scary situation if you're Ferox, even after receiving so much extra time.
Yeah, Ferox did manage during the time Tizago was in zone to build up enough attack to prevent Tizago's main attacks from going, but we saw those large lines of garbage that were about to get sent from the end of Tizago's zone that now are putting Ferox under a little bit of pressure after having to zone to clear out of that, and now Tizago has a zone build-up, and Ferox could not quite get to it, allowing Tizago to take around and prevent a sweep.
This might be the momentum that Tizago needs, despite Ferox's best efforts. Even finding a 7 combo, Tizago's sustain was just too much for Ferox to deal with, and this is going to put her on the board. You can see her already playing faster. She might has the confidence now in order to maybe take even more.
Yeah, and with Ferox's couple of misdrops there, and Tizago having a couple of not great board states now, both of the players having a little bit of self-made cheese to work through, but Ferox keeping efficient with just stacking on top with 6-3, and Tizago adapting beautifully to have a real good well there, but has to zone to prevent the incoming attack from being too detrimental.
Yeah, she had a nice opportunity there, but she did end up forcing an eyepiece dependency on the far right side of her board, so she's gonna take a big hit to her efficiency, only sending 42, but Ferox, I'm not sure if they can use all of their material. If you see all that cheese on the bottom, they're gonna have to break a lot earlier than they're expecting, so Tizago's post pressure might actually be the difference maker in terms of who takes advantage after the zone.
Yeah, and Ferox being able to stay efficient with that zone is allowing the players to, or allowing Tizago to get out of that nicely, and Tizago continuously kept up the pressure there and managed to top Ferox out.
Yeah, that was an insane Tetrio-esque spike. They had a down stack combo into quad, and that last bit is what ended up topping out Ferox, because he just had no zone to try and survive or much less retaliate. And Tizago once again gonna try that 6-3 stack, maybe target mode their way back into the well, and Ferox still trying to keep efficiency. They have the 2-7 stack on the bottom of their board due to where their well placement is.
Yeah, and despite that, Ferox is still stacking up nicely and has a T-spin and a Tetris to fill up the zone, but Tizago is keeping up with a good 6-3 there, and with the well at the bottom there being an 09 well, is allowing for continually powerful plays as Tizago is the first to zone.
Yeah, both players had a really nice board state to zone for a while there, and Tizago's gonna recognize that they have too many dependencies and not enough space in the zone, so she's gonna end it quick. That's still a very quick 34, which is gonna allow her post pressure to at least cancel any kind of damage that Ferox is sending, or so I think, if Ferox isn't able to find this 20.
But Ferox with the with the ST stacking within the zone gave a lot of extra attack during that, and that's putting Tizago under a little bit of pressure here. But thankfully, the lines that are being received aren't terrible, and so Tizago is able to work through this.
Yep, that is that phase 2 damage that she was receiving, but Ferox is actually going to kick it over to the next phase, hitting that 60k threshold, and it's actually in a really nice LST stack, so even though this zone's going to be short, it's going to be highly efficient, and that's not going to give Tizago any time to react, especially in a board state this cheesy, and if she has no overcharge and no more skims, that is going to be that round, and Ferox is going to be at match point.
Very impressive stuff, seeing the kind of efficient plays from Ferox throughout that match, as nothing seemed to phase him whatsoever. But now we are going into this match with both players once again starting off with 6-3.
Both players started the 6-3, but Tizago had to do a bit of soft dropping off the start, and it's going to send Ferox some damage, so Ferox is going to be leading in pace, but of course it is phase 1, so you can't gain too much knowledge from here, because anything can change on a dime. Honestly, I feel like phase 1 is one of the more versatile, volatile phases that a lot of players don't really talk about, and kind of just disregard it.
Yeah, phase 1 is where you can largely make or break your the matches. The person who really takes the lead of phase 1 can kind of lead into the rest of the phases, and it can come down to flip-flopping on just about every piece drop sometimes.
Very well said, and Ferox actually doesn't have that efficient of a zone start, but it is at least going to trigger first and likely end first as well, which is going to give them a nice job after the zone in order to try and recuperate some of their losses here. Only sending 40. Tizago gonna not give them that much time. Yeah, only gonna send 44 back, but she's not gonna be in any kind of pacing disadvantage just due to the way she decided to clear that zone.
Yeah, and with Ferox's stack here being, it seems a little bit indeterminate for a little while on where the well actually was going to be. Brought down Ferox's efficiency a little bit and allowed Tizago to send some attack, but that means that now Tizago does have the zone advantage and is not in too bad of a board state to work with it.
No, she's not, and she's going to take advantage while she can. This zone is going to transition no matter what she does, but of course she's going to go for the higher clear. She does have curb potential here, but she just doesn't have the pieces in order to do so. She's going to be hard capped at 48 ulti, and Ferox is going to be taking that phase 3 timer, and their efficiency is going to be capped by the misdrops they had to deal with, but they see the zone chunk, so I wouldn't be surprised if they send to Tizago anyway.
And right at the top gets that Ultimatress to send 60, but Tizago has that large 4-wide, can't quite get full power out of it, and so she's using zone in order to continue it, but that allowed a good chunk of attack to be mitigated.
Yeah, that combo did end up cutting, so the gamble didn't really pay off. She was forced to use that quarter zone, and she's going to be forced to use another quarter zone as Ferox is going to send another TST to make sure she eats the bleed through damage. This could be a kill shot if she can't find any more skims. O-Piece is going to compromise the spawning, and that's going to be the set. Ferox is going to take it at 7-2.
Very impressive games nonetheless, but Tizago really was putting up a fight through a lot of that, and despite all that, Ferox just could keep it up and keep pushing through all of it.